Search natural cancer cure online, and one plant comes up again and again, graviola. Also known as soursop, this spiky green fruit has been the subject of viral posts, forwarded messages, and bold claims for over a decade. Some say it's 10,000 times stronger than chemotherapy. Others dismiss it entirely as internet myth. The truth, as usual, sits somewhere more complicated and more interesting than either extreme. In this video, we're looking at what graviola actually is, which parts of the plant are traditionally used, what the real science says so far, and why separating fact from hype matters, especially when the topic is something as serious as cancer. Let's get into it. What is graviola? Graviola's scientific name is Annona muricata. It's a small, flowering evergreen tree native to the tropical regions of the Caribbean, Central America, and South America. Today, it also grows widely across West Africa and parts of Southeast Asia. The tree produces a large, spiky green fruit with soft white flesh inside, commonly called soursop because of its slightly tart, custard-like flavor. It goes by different names depending on where you are. In Spanish-speaking countries, it's often called guanabana. In West Africa, it's known in various local languages, and in parts of the Caribbean, simply as soursop. For generations, communities across these regions haven't just eaten the fruit, they've used the leaves, bark, and seeds in traditional remedies for a wide range of ailments. Which parts are used? Different parts of the graviola tree have different traditional uses. The leaves are the most commonly used part in traditional medicine. They're typically dried and brewed into a tea or made into extracts. The fruit itself is eaten fresh, blended into juices and smoothies, or used in desserts, valued mainly for its nutrition and flavor rather than as a medicinal preparation. The bark and roots have also been used in some traditional practices, though far less commonly than the leaves and generally with more caution. The seeds are notably not eaten. They contain compounds that are considered toxic in concentrated amounts, and traditional users have long known to discard them rather than consume them. When you see graviola supplements or teas marketed today, it's almost always the leaves that are the source. The viral claim. Let's address the claim that made graviola famous online. Starting in the early 2010s, articles and social media posts began circulating claiming that graviola extract was 10,000 times stronger than chemotherapy drugs at killing cancer cells, and that pharmaceutical companies were suppressing this information to protect profits. This claim spread rapidly and is still shared today. It's important to be direct here. This specific claim is not supported by credible scientific evidence. No large-scale human clinical trial has ever confirmed that graviola is more effective than chemotherapy, and no credible research supports a pharmaceutical suppression conspiracy. Understanding where this claim came from and what the actual research does show is where this story gets genuinely interesting. What the research actually shows. So what does legitimate research actually say? Laboratory studies, meaning studies conducted on isolated cancer cells in test tubes, not in living humans, have found that certain compounds in graviola leaves, called acetogenins, can trigger cell death in some types of cancer cells under controlled lab conditions. This is scientifically real and has been published in peer-reviewed journals. However, and this distinction matters enormously, a lab result showing an effect on isolated cells is very different from proof that the plant treats cancer in a living person. The human body is vastly more complex than a petri dish. Absorption, dosage, delivery to the right tissue, and interaction with the rest of the body all matter enormously, and none of that has been established for graviola in humans. As of now, there are no completed large-scale human clinical trials proving graviola treats or cures any form of cancer. Why this distinction matters. This gap between promising lab results and proven human treatment is actually incredibly common in early-stage medical research. Thousands of compounds show activity against cancer cells in a lab. Only a small fraction of those ever become safe, effective, proven treatments after years of rigorous human trials. Graviola sits in that enormous, hopeful, unproven middle ground. That doesn't mean the research is worthless. Researchers do continue to study acetogenins and other compounds in the plant. But it does mean the viral claims went far beyond what the actual science supports. Traditional uses beyond cancer. Before the cancer conversation took over online, graviola had a much longer history of traditional use for other purposes entirely. Across the Caribbean, Central America, and West Africa, graviola leaf tea has traditionally been used to help with sleep and relaxation, to ease digestive discomfort, and to reduce fever. Some traditional practices also use it for its believed anti-inflammatory and antimicrobial properties. These traditional uses, unlike the cancer claims, are less sensational but have a long, consistent history across multiple cultures, and some preliminary modern research has begun exploring the plant's antioxidant and anti-inflammatory potential in these more modest contexts. Emerging research areas. Beyond the cancer research, scientists have looked at graviola for a few other potential applications. Some laboratory studies suggest possible antimicrobial effects against certain bacteria and parasites. Other early research has examined its antioxidant content, given the presence of various plant compounds in the leaves. There's also preliminary interest in its traditional use for managing symptoms of arthritis and joint pain. As with the cancer research, all of this remains in early stages, primarily laboratory and animal studies, with human research still needed to confirm any of these effects translate to real-world benefit. Important safety considerations. This is a plant where caution genuinely matters, more than most on this channel. Some research has linked long-term heavy consumption of graviola, particularly the seeds and in very concentrated forms, to neurological effects, including symptoms resembling Parkinson's disease, observed in populations with very high dietary intake of the plant over many years. This research is still being studied and isn't fully settled, but it's a serious enough finding that it shouldn't be ignored or downplayed. The seeds should never be consumed. Concentrated leaf extracts and supplements should be used cautiously and not in excessive amounts. Most importantly, if you or someone you know is dealing with cancer, graviola should never be used as a replacement for conventional medical treatment. Delaying or replacing evidence-based cancer care with unproven natural remedies carries real, documented risk, and this is a point worth repeating clearly, not softening. How it's traditionally used. For the traditional lower-risk uses, graviola leaves are typically dried and steeped as tea, a small handful of leaves in hot water, consumed occasionally rather than in large daily amounts. The fresh fruit is eaten in moderation, as you would any other fruit, and is generally considered safe and nutritious in normal dietary quantities. It's the concentrated extracts, supplements, and seed products where the most caution is warranted. Why this story matters. So why does graviola deserve a full conversation instead of a simple yes or no? Because it's a perfect case study in something bigger than one plant. It shows how a genuine, if very preliminary scientific finding can be stretched into a viral, oversimplified claim that spreads faster than the nuance ever could. It shows why lab results and human treatments are not the same thing, and it shows that a plant can have real traditional value and ongoing scientific interest, while the most famous claim about it is still unproven. Holistic and natural medicine deserves serious, honest coverage, and that means being willing to say clearly when the evidence doesn't support the hype, even for a plant this popular. It's the real story of graviola. A fruit with genuine traditional roots across 3 continents, a compound worth continued scientific study, and a viral cancer claim that outran the actual evidence. If you want more honest, evidence-based breakdowns of the natural remedies making headlines, this channel is exactly where to find them. Subscribe for more, and we'll see you in the next one.